Wendy Wyman. I'm the Director of Programming at Fotografiska New York. Fotografiska is the internationally renowned destination for photography founded in Stockholm in 2010. With locations in Tallinn, Estonia, and New York City, and opening in Berlin in 2022. Guided by the principle of inspiring a more conscious world through the power of photography, Fotografiska has built a safe haven of innovation, inclusivity, and self-expression. I want to thank you for joining us tonight and welcome you to the fight for freedom, a live conversation with photographer Martin Schoeller and Death Row Exonerees Kirk Blookdsworth and Sabrina Butler Smith. Tonight's discussion will focus on the exhibition Death Row Exonerees, currently in the museum in New York. We will learn about how this project came to be and what you can do to support Death Row Exonerees as leaders in the movement to abolish the death penalty. A little bit about the guest tonight. Photographer Martin Schoeller is joining us live from New York City. Martin is known for his close-up portrait-style photography and photographs of celebrities and public figures, including Barack Obama, Angelina Jolie, Rihanna, Oprah and Jay-Z, and Willie Nelson. He is also known for his work in commercial photography, including the iconic portrait of Colin Kaepernick for Nike's campaign commemorating the 30th anniversary of Just Do It. Born in Germany and based in New York, Schoeller began his career as an assistant to the legendary Annie Leibovitz. Kirk Blookdsworth is joining us from Pennsylvania. He is the first person in the United States to be exonerated from death row based on DNA testing from a capital conviction. He was wrongfully convicted and sentenced to death in the state of Maryland. Kirk is the executive director of Witness To Innocence. Sabrina Butler Smith is joining us from Tennessee. She was wrongfully convicted and sentenced to death in Mississippi as a teenager. She is the first woman in the United States exonerated from death row. Kirk and Sabrina will share their stories of how they were convicted and sentenced to death row for crimes they did not commit. First, we will look at two of the digital portraits that are currently part of the exhibition in the museum in New York.
I remember people in the courtroom calling me a child killer. That hurt the most, you know. I'd never hurt a child. But they branded me this, and it stuck too for a long, long time. Even 10 years after I got out, people were still calling me a child killer. There's air vents in the prisons, and I could hear the catcalls coming from the air vents. Kirk, Kirk, we're gonna get you, Kirk. We're gonna do to you what you did to that little girl. Every day, for the longest kind of time. And that was my life, all the time. And it continued, even in the courtroom, you know. So when the gavel came down on my life after a 2-week trial, the courtroom erupted in applause. Give him the gas and kill his ass, they said. Both trials, same thing. They partied until 4 o'clock in the morning to my execution. Kid, I was scared to death, I'm not gonna lie to you, you know. Thank God for DNA though. Yeah, DNA, man. Saved my life.
I was 19 years old when I made it to death row. I had never been incarcerated before, so I didn't know what to expect. When they take you in, they have you, strip you of everything that you thought was yours. It's not yours anymore. They put bug spray in my hair. They put you in these tanks like you're animals. They gave me a number, took pictures. On my name tag, it had capital murder. That was humiliating But the walk to maximum security was, hard for me because the officer that walked beside me told me that, he said, you see those inmates out there in the field? He said, we tell them when to go to sleep, when to get up, what to eat. You will die here. And when he said that to me, I didn't know what to do. All I could do was cry because, here's somebody telling you that you're going to die. What would you do if someone say that to you? Your life is not your own anymore. You're a ward of the state, and whatever they say, that's what goes.
Wow, really powerful. Let's begin this conversation first by hearing from you, Martin. Welcome, all three of you. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's a real honor. Martin, can you tell us about this project in your own words? Sort of what was the impetus for it, and maybe talk a little bit about your meeting with Kirk back in the fall of 2018 at 30th Street Station in Philadelphia.
Well, yeah, hi. Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for showing this work at the museum. I'm really very grateful for it, and trying to help the cause to abolish the death penalty. I think for a museum is really courageous act to do. So first of all, a big thank you to Fotografiska and everybody who works there. I'm born in Germany, and for me, I've been living here now for 25 years in the United States, and for me, the idea that the death penalty still exists has been bothering me. It's hard to understand, especially for Europeans that went through the Second World War, and that a government kills people in the name of the people. I always felt like I have to do something about that subject matter. I have to help try to abolish the death penalty. The death penalty doesn't make sense for a long list of reasons. And there has been, work in that realm before. So I was trying to find a way to kind of do something different than all the other work that has been done in that area. And I stumbled across this organization, Witness To Innocence, online, and I was immediately interested in their work because it's run by an exoneree, Kirk, who's here with us tonight, who is the director of the organization. And then all the other members are exonerees. So I was like, couldn't be any more perfect an organization that actually is, the people that are doing the work are actually the ones that experienced this torture. So I started writing them emails, didn't hear back from them, introducing myself, offering my service to help, take pictures or in any which way I can. And then I realized, maybe the emails don't work. Maybe I should just go to an event. So I went to an event and met Jenny, who works there, who was very nice. And then again, I didn't hear anything for a while. So finally, Kirk is willing to meet with me in person at the train station in Philadelphia. And he's like, you know what? Let me be honest. I've been photographed before, for a magazine story, and I looked horrible. And I felt like I was treated like an object. I had to go to the scene of the crime that I've never been to. And, I just gotten out of prison. I was kind of disheveled, and the photographer liked that I looked so beaten up and I was missing teeth. They don't have dentists in prison. And now you come along and you want to do these mug shots of us. Everybody looks terrible in your pictures. So I was like a little bit devastated at that moment, thinking, oh my God, I thought we were going to meet to talk about how we can work together. And he just met with me to tell me he is not a big fan of my work, which, it's fair. So I showed him my book, and then he started looking through my closed book, and halfway through the book, he's like, actually, people, they just look the way they look, right? They don't look really that bad. It's just honest kind of pictures. And then he said, oh, actually, they have a lot of soul. There's a lot of humanity in your pictures, huh? And then he started changing his mind. And then in the end of the book, he says, you know what? I'm going to be the first one. I'm going to give this a try. So that was the beginning of our friendship right there. Kirk, or what do you think?
Yeah.
Did I give a fair account of what happened? Or do you remember it differently?
Well, Martin is just an ace. I honestly was worried about people like Sabrina and our other members. I was worried about how they were going to be portrayed. And he was right. Although I never went to the crime scene with that other photographer because I thought it was bullshit. And I just said, this is something. These people didn't go there. I don't need, I couldn't understand the artistic side. And I saw some of his other work in black and white, and I thought, oh man, is this more of it? And then after talking with Martin over a period of time, I found that him to be straight with all of us, and that he was trying to do something for Witness to Innocence. And after that, we became fast friends. Might have had more than one margarita, but we had the best time. And he is a remarkable human being, and his talent as a photographer is exceptional. And I say that because I'm a visual person. I've seen photographs and I know what things look like, and I just was, stunned by this thing. And and the other fact is Taylor Swift was on the cover of his other book. I felt like, shoot, she wants to do it, go ahead. And it was easy from there on. I just really, everybody at Witness to Innocence, as far as I am concerned, just love Martin and his work. It is top shelf.
Great. I have a question for you, Martin. I heard that all of the close-up video portraits were done in a studio in Puerto Rico, and that you really wanted to have Sabrina participate. And she'll talk about it now, but she was not so sure either. Why was that so important to you? And then we'll hear from Sabrina on her decision.
Well, after meeting with Kirk, he said, you can come to our annual gathering every year. Witness to Innocence meets in a state where an exoneree is from. Last year, it was taking place in Puerto Rico because Juan Melendez is originally from Puerto Rico. But, Kirk told me I can only tell people, I recommend you be interviewed by Martin, you have your picture taken, but I can't guarantee it. You have to talk to all the attendees yourself. And obviously, Sabrina being one of two women members at Witness to Innocence, I was the only one who was at the gathering. I was hoping that she would be willing to partake. And I was just hanging out outside, drinking and smoking cigarettes. And talking to people, explaining them what I was doing. And then I think in the end, everybody except for one or two people was willing to work with me.
So Sabrina, back in Puerto Rico, do you remember what it was like to sit for Martin and work with his team? There's a very big difference between sitting for a still portrait and smiling than sitting for a video portrait. And Martin will talk about that later, but can you talk about how you felt?
Well, how I felt at first, the reason why I was kind of skeptical about doing it at first, because we, as exonerees, to me, when you meet people, it's like you have to prove your self-worth. And we have been raked over the coals so much. So the trusting part is a very hard issue. And that was one of my reasons for being kind of apprehensive at first. But when I met Martin and started to talk to him and meet, his crew and everything, I kind of relaxed a little bit and I felt a connection because I saw something in him that I had never seen in anyone else. So that's why I was more so willing to talk to him because, I just felt like, hey, maybe this is something, And so that's why I took the chance.
and look where we are. Look where we are. He does beautiful work. I like the way it turned out, and I would recommend him to anyone.
That's great. Martin, can you talk a little bit about the process and how your projects evolve and this new, is it a new format? Was it a new format for you?
It was a new format, and then having spent some time with Kirk, I learned, and Jenny and Kara at the organization, that a lot of their members still have a really hard time talking about what happened to them. Some suffer from PTSD, and it is, I realized that doing regular interviews, just filming these exonerees in front of a running camera might work for some, but I thought to myself, it probably is better if I just meet them one-on-one without a camera and just have a conversation. I felt like maybe people will open up more and tell me more intimate stories that will get a little bit more personal. So I decided to do, to have the voice and the images kind of separated from each other. And I did some experiments in my studio first. And I like that when you go through the installation now, it's almost two stories. You have the face and the visual, that is one story, and what you hear is another story. And they don't necessarily go together. It's not that the faces replicate what you hear, but this discrepancy hopefully creates like an uncomfortable feeling. I kept the whole show really dark to emphasize, I wanted to make it uncomfortable, emotional and uncomfortable, to kind of give a sense of you can never replicate what it's like to be on death row for a crime you didn't commit, obviously, but to raise a little more empathy for these people that have endured those horrors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is a very different experience seeing it in person in the museum than seeing it here on the screen. So anyone who's listening, please go check out the show. It's a very different experience because the projections are huge. So every minute movement is a lot more dramatic than on a screen where, it looks like they almost don't move at all, so.
Definitely. The lips, the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk, I heard that what Martin just explained, that change happened actually after you had sat for him, and you were trying to tell the story while he was photographing you. Jenny had explained to me. What did that take a certain amount of courage to suggest doing it differently to Martin Schoeller? Is there? Or were you totally comfortable saying, you know what, this isn't working for me and I want to consider doing this a little bit differently? Can we talk about it? Or did it not happen like that?
Well, certainly, I tell you the truth, I think I felt bad for Martin because he had to sit through that in this, the lens he had with me not moving. And, I can sit still pretty good. And it was messing with my head listening to myself drone about a story that I've talked about now for over 28 years and have endured every day of my life. It's not a day goes by that I don't think of that situation. And as Sabrina talked about it, that tank, a tank that we could touch either wall by just going like that and being, condemned to die. And we all know we're not supposed to be here. You scream and scream and scream and nobody hears you. It's like you're silent drowning on the ground. It's like you're dry land drowning and you can't get anybody to hear you, or you're being attacked by something that you can't see. And it was so many different takes on it. I had no idea that Martin was gonna do it like that. And, because he's looking at me through this lens, like it's really small place. And I'm looking at him and, I'm bearing down. The more we get into it, the harder I'm getting, because I'm just focused on that moment. And he captured that, as because honestly, that's the first time I've seen it. I've seen the little takes and stuff, but I have never seen a finished project. And it's scary to hear myself intone that fear to myself. It's like you're telling yourself the truth for once in your life, and how that engraves. And I'm not that kind of guy. It's but this stuff makes you. It's really hard. I'm getting misty now thinking about it. And he brought that out. That's not easy to do for us. I have to say, because it would have been a point, and I'd have shut him off, and then that would have been that, because I don't want to endure it. But the more I did, the better I thought I felt. And by the time I got done, I remember I was like, it seemed like it took forever. I was like, oh man, come on. And he was just, you could see the strain on the realization on his face, and the other fella in the room, and how hard it was on them to just kind of live through that thing in the place he put us. And it's remarkable what he's done with it. And I want if you want to know what it's like, listen to these stories, and you'll know. Witness to Innocence is full of, and we're not unique. There's 172 of us on the planet that have been sentenced to death and almost died for something we had nothing to do with. And I'm just glad to be here and be a part of this, even though he took me kicking and screaming, but I went. And to just back that up a second, I did it myself first, because I wanted Sabrina and everybody to see what I had done. And the finished product was amazing. And I trusted him from then on. I didn't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah, why don't we talk about that? You're currently the executive director of Witness to Innocence and an exoneree. Yeah. Can you tell us about what the organization does? I also want to just mention, I know it's in the chat section of this video. This is a fundraising moment. So I want to just mention witnesstoinnocence.org/donate. This is a 501c3 organization. The funds from this chat will go to Witness to Innocence. So I just want to mention that. It'll also be part of the evening. But talk about your role, Kirk, and talk about how that organization began a little bit.
Well, I've been the executive director actually 2 years this week, I think it was. I can't remember if it was October 8th or not, but it was right around that time. I had just been hired to be the deputy director. And, just like Martin, I had to prove myself to a certain extent. And I love the exonerees. I love my brothers and sisters. Sabrina is a sister as much as my own sister back home. And our mission statement basically is, Witness to Innocence is the only national organization in the United States comprised of and led by exonerated death row survivors and their family members. We are to abolish the death penalty by empowering exonerated death row survivors and their loved ones to become effective leaders in the abolition movement. And certainly Sabrina and everybody else, not just in this, Kwame Ajamu and all the others, Ray Crone, who co-founded the organization. Our executive director, when I got on board, left, and I didn't know what to do. I had only been a deputy for 2 weeks, and as a Marine, you're never supposed to volunteer for anything. And that's the first damn thing we do is just, okay, I'll do it. And that's, I've been here 2 years now, and they seem to like me unless they're telling me a fib, but
We love you. We love you.
I love you too, honey. And it's the best group of people you could possibly have that have come from all different walks of life. And I want to add to your ad because I texted Jenny while we were sitting here. So it's text innocent to 855-905-4984. That's innocent, INNOCENT, to 855-905-4984, or to, witnesstinnocence.org/donate. You can do either one. And it's like you were saying, it's a 501c3, and it's tax deductible. And we have a lot of programs. I was working on with one today, Accuracy and Justice, with the number 2 female exoneree, Deborah Milkey, who is another story. I mean, these guys, I send them out and they make my job that much better because their stories are so compelling. But we also have an emergency fund that is for the exonerees themselves. You imagine in this midst of COVID and everything that's going on, people have lost their jobs. I mean, we're holding on, and it's a day by day thing. So we are about abolishing the death penalty, but we're also about empowering exonerees. And sometimes exonerees need help just like everybody else, and they need it more so. And that's what I'm all about as the executive director.
Great, thank you so much. This conversation is actually, we scheduled this for this evening just ahead of this weekend, World Day Against the Death Penalty, and Witness to Innocence working to abolish the death penalty. I want to ask you and Sabrina and Martin, how do you think this exhibition of Martin's work will impact people's views on the death penalty?
Sabrina?
The big.
You want me to talk? You want me to say?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm out of breath.
Okay. Well, I think his exhibition will shed more light on the impact of wrongful incarceration and the death penalty as a whole in this country. He shows the ugly truth of how something is so wrong with this picture, and we need to fix it now instead of later. That's what I feel like. I wrote that today when that question was asked, and I feel like his exhibition really shows what it does to people and the impact of how innocent people in this country are being treated. And I think that with this, a lot of people should go to the exhibition to get the experience.
Guys, do you want to talk a little bit about your cases? I think maybe some people are curious to hear about what happened to you. You want to maybe give a quick synopsis of your cases, how you ended up on death row?
Sabrina, you want to go first?
Yeah. Well, my case happened when I was only 17 in a little town called Columbus, Mississippi. And at the time, I was trying to be an adult with 2 children, but I was a kid myself. So basically, they took me through being found guilty for something that I didn't do. I ended up being put on death row. I also ended up, after that happened to me, I ended up finding 2 other attorneys who came into my case and found out that my son had heart problems, kidney problems, and chronic bowel syndrome. It was nothing that I had done to cause his death. And I have a child today that has the same disease. So it basically was a nightmare. I ended up spending 6.5 years, 2 years, 9 months on death row. And once you're free, being exonerated, it's not over. You have to go through your life trying to see where you fit in into this, in this community, into society as a whole. And it was very difficult. So, these types of programs and exhibitions and things that are being done today are an eye-opener, and it's much needed, and I think that the more we do this, the more we can educate the public as to, what really happens behind the scenes. And I just think that, I'm grateful to be here, basically.
And yeah, from what I learned is like once you get out of prison, you don't get any help. If you actually do commit a crime and you get let out on parole, you have a parole officer trying to help you find jobs, trying to find education, trying to help you with housing.
Absolutely.
And if you're exonerated, you found innocent. They just said, "Oh, our bad," like you said.
That's right. Our bad. They just let you go. I mean, there's no help.
No help. And you apply for a job and they do a background check and they see a murder charge and you can explain to them, I've been exonerated, I'm innocent, I didn't do it. It doesn't matter because people can't look beyond it, right?
Right. And that's not fair. I really don't feel like that's fair because you, the system, made this horrible mistake. And I think that they should be held accountable to fix what they do to innocent people. I just do.
Yeah, I would agree. It's, there's no recourse for an exonerated person. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's nothing in the Constitution that, other than saying, a person is innocent until proven guilty. And, we have a right to liberty and a pursuit of happiness, but you damn sure can't pursue it if you have been put on death row for something you didn't do. Right. In my case, is that all right? You want me to go into my case?
Yeah.
And so in my case, it was 1984. I just got out of the Marine Corps and, I was honorably discharged, but I was going fishing. My father was a fisherman, his father. I mean, I've been working, been on the water. This is the longest time I've ever been dry land. And I had just got married and wound up in Baltimore County, Maryland. It's a county about 100 miles away from where I'm from. A little girl by the name of Dawn Hamilton was found brutally murdered in a wooded area near her home. A search ensued for the killer, who was described by 5 eyewitnesses, 2 of which and more said he was 6 foot tall and taller. And the main witness said he was 6'5", curly blonde hair, bushy mustache, tan skin, and skinny. Now that ain't me, no matter what you say. I'm about 6 foot tall. I was a big guy, I'm not a little fella, and I don't tan because my hair was as red as a fire plug back in those days. They didn't care about anything I said, whether I was innocent or not. They didn't care. I kept telling them. And, a police report came in 8 days before I was arrested. And they never went back to check. And that would damn everybody in the end and prove my innocence as well. But 19 years later, now I spent 8 years, 10 months, and 19 days in prison, 2 years on death row, slept right underneath the gas chamber. And these people didn't give a hoot in hell about who I was or why I was there. They were blinded by what I was accused of, just like Sabrina. And you get in this mode and you keep trying to talk to these people. And can I tell an anecdotal story about my lawyer? I gotta laugh because a lot of this stuff is serious, but my lawyer came in the county jail where I was waiting to go to trial. And he was a public defender and he was a prosecutor at one time. And everybody said how good he was. So he comes in. Now I want you guys, it's in the audience, to picture this prison visiting room with a glass partition in front of you. Okay, lawyer comes in off the street through an archway. It's 8 foot high and 10 foot wide, and he sits right in front of that. There's an archway on either side of this brick wall, right? He sits with his back to the brick wall, and the first thing out of his mouth, he says, "Kirk, you're in a lot of trouble." I thought he had to go to college for that, man. I'm in deep stuff. And so he says, "But don't worry, I know my way around the courtroom. I know my way around the criminal justice system. We're going to find our way out of here together." We talked about the case for about 20 minutes, one of only 3 visits he ever come to see me in, for like 10, 15 minutes at a clip, usually on a Friday when he had to get home, you know. And so we talked about the case for about 20 minutes, and he gets ready to leave, and he tells me the same thing. He says, "Kirk, I know my way around the courtroom. We're going to find our way out of here together." Put his hand on the glass like that and said goodbye, picked up his briefcase, turned around, and ran right in the wall.
That's funny.
What in the hell is I've gotten into? He ran in the wall, knocked his glasses off, dropped his briefcase on the floor. I called my father up. I said, "This son of a bitch can't find his way out of the out of the jail. I'm in trouble." He was right. I was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was the only, you know, years later when we wrote the book, he called me on the phone and said, "It didn't happen that way." I said, "You're a damn lie. You still here today. You would climb a tree and tell a lie and won't stand on the ground to tell the truth."
Right.
And so, you know, from then on, I knew that, and then I started seeing other people, Freddie Pitts, who just passed away, God bless his soul, and different ones, Ron Coney, Ray Crone, all these different cats, man, and Kwame Ajamu, who's in this situation with us, and Ray Crone, just hundreds of people. And we had to do something about it. And I don't tend to stop. And I've got a bunch of brothers and sisters behind me. We're going to make some sand on this thing. And I think Martin's show here is going to do it. It's going to put a spotlight on us. And I just hope and pray that, you know, people pay attention. And, you know,
but Kirk,
today, I just want to say this real quick. Somebody, and I'm not going to mention who, called somebody a monster today over something that happened the other night. I ain't going to mention no names, but that's what a prosecutor called me.
Yeah.
A monster. And it wasn't true then, and it ain't true today.
but Kirk, in your story, what is so mind-boggling is that you were set free based on DNA testing. They found, then you for 10 years you tried to convince a DA to actually use a DNA that was found on the murder victim to compare it with the national database of sexual offenders. They didn't do it until when? Until like 2002 or something?
It was 2003.
2003. It took them 10 years to follow your advice, and when they finally did it, it turns out that the real killer was actually in prison with you.
Yes, sleeping in a tier below me, and never said a word. There was a police report that came out 8 days before I was arrested about that guy. They never went back to check. And the truth is, they had told me that DNA was inadvertently destroyed. Well, turns out that it wasn't inadvertently destroyed. It was in the closet of the last judge I had, in a paper bag, in a cardboard box, sitting in the floor.
Crazy.
I'm telling you now, and I am not unique, as you know, Sabrina sits right here with me. It is it's just one case after another, one case after another. They believe it's over 5% people on death row today are innocent. That's thousands of people. You know, I mean, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
We can't have this thing. And I tell you the truth, I think that the estimate is lower. You know, I mean, higher than that. Yeah. But, you know, I had to fight tooth and nail to get out. And one of the hardest things for me was when my mother passed away. 5 months before I got out of prison. I'll never get that back. I won't get those 9 years with her back, or that last 5 months of her life. I got told by a priest in a jail cell that my mother had just passed away. They let me go see her body for 5 minutes in handcuffs and shackles. I kissed her goodbye.
Yeah. It's bad.
I have a question from people that are I'm taking a question from Facebook. There are a lot of people watching right now. My colleague shared this with me. This is a question, Martin, for you. There's really no easy transition, Kirk, from that into this, but thank you so much for being so generous and sharing your story, which I know we didn't plan for. So I do think that people should come to Fotografiska in New York and come experience the full exhibit, because you're in a very dark room with the image in front of you. And it's a very different experience than being together now and watching it on the computer or in your home. So I encourage everybody to come and see it. We are open. The question is something that Kirk mentioned before about, Martin, how did you resist the decision to put the exonerees in maybe what they would have been wearing in prison? I think we kind of know the answer, but Kirk said previous photographers had approached and done work with prisoners in their prison uniform. Was it a planned style, or did it evolve after meeting the exonerees? Did you have any idea about what you were going to do? That's from Chris Mullen on Facebook.
No, everybody's just wearing whatever they were wearing that day. You know, I had a lot of exonerees wearing the blue T-shirts, the Witness to Innocence T-shirts. So after a while, I started to discourage them from wearing all the same T-shirts. Yeah, they shouldn't have been in prison in the first place. So I never felt I should put them in a prison uniform. You know, but, you know, obviously prison uniforms photograph great, you know, because everybody knows immediately what the story is about. But since I was always planning to do a video installation, never felt like I needed a visual clue to explain what the story is about, you know. So I never considered prison uniforms.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have considered it either.
Huh?
I wouldn't have considered that either.
After I met Kirk, I was like, you know what? You know, you have all different ideas as a photographer, but I quickly came to realize that would not fly anyways, you know, even if I did ever want to do it.
Yeah. Sabrina, did you have anything you wanted to add, you know, as far as,
I agree with them. I would not have wore it, you know. That would really, you know, because to tell your stories is enough. You know, it's like Kirk said earlier, you know, it's like you're in a box, really, and you're going over this. And to just constantly go through that is already hard enough. And to be, you know, to put on a prison uniform now, that was a horrible idea. Horrible. Yeah. He never asked that, though. Martin never asked that. He was really kind. He never asked that.
He always was concerned about our comfort.
That's right.
How we felt, and it was always willing to stop and have a chat. He was never like indisposed. And when he was working, and even then he had time for each and every one of us. I have nothing but really awesome things to say about Martin Schoeller. And I know you don't like that stuff, but I
You make me blush. You make me blush.
I'll get him. I'll get him. He's a good man.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kirk. Shall we talk about why the death? Because I think a lot of people, and even sometimes I talk to friends, and they're kind of on the fence about the death penalty. I'm oftentimes surprised when I talk about my work with you guys that I'm always assuming all my friends are 100% against the death penalty, and then sometimes they're like, well, but if somebody killed children, if somebody did something really horrific, I think they don't deserve to be on this earth. People talk like that. So can you guys explain to everybody why? I know the answers, but I want to hear it from you. Why you're so strongly opposed against the death penalty?
Sabrina?
Well, my thought is this. All right, you say that, a lot of people say that, well, the worst of the worst, they need to go to prison or whatever the case may be, or go to death row. How can you say that when we have cases out here right now that are horrible cases? Charles Manson case is one of them. I mean, he was responsible for 9 people. I mean, this was a horrible, brutal case, but yet and still, he didn't get the death penalty. So how can you decide or say which case should get it and which case shouldn't? So I feel like the death penalty is not portrayed the way they set it out to be. Some get it and some don't. So I feel like if a person is innocent and you give them the death penalty and you kill that person, you can't go back and say, oh, my bad. Hey, I'm sorry. You can't pull nobody from the grave like Freddie said. So why not take the money that is used for the death penalty, put it where it should be, in schools, roads, education purposes, things like that. And you know what I'm saying? I think that's what it should be used for. If you commit a crime, yes, serve your time. But if you get it wrong, you can go back and you can fix that, as opposed to the death penalty. You can't fix the death penalty. So why not, give that person time or whatever the case may be. And if they're, if you can go back and fix it, then fix that. That's why I'm opposed to the death penalty. I don't think it's right. I just don't.
Yeah, I would agree with Sabrina 100%. I mean, Freddie Pitts, it's on the back of our shirts, and I swear my shirt is dirty. I would show it to you, but it's he would say, you can free a man from prison, but you can't free him from the grave.
That's right.
And we talk about this stuff and who gets death and who doesn't, who gets what, when, and it's not up to anybody to kill another person if our society says it's wrong.
Yeah.
That don't make sense. That's an ox riding a moron.
That's right.
An oxymoron. And so we can't have this kind of thing. We have proved so many issues that the death penalty is fraught with error.
Yeah.
Fraught with error. You can stop right there because we're sentencing people that are innocent to death. And they said, what about DNA? What about it? It's only as good as the people using it. We found this woman up in Massachusetts purposely, just took DNA tests and said they matched what the cops said to them. It was over 20,000 cases. Houston, Texas. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on. It's just not right.
And one thing too, Kirk, you either gonna be pro-life or pro-death. One or two. You can't be both. There's no way. That doesn't make sense. You can't be both.
That's
if
right.
Somebody's pregnant and you want them to have a baby, okay, we'll have the baby, but then you believe in the death penalty. That doesn't make sense. I mean, which one is it?
I think, I agree 100%. This is not some cafeteria in life where you get to pick and choose who dies and who lives. Normally, it's a poor person, a person of color, and somebody that might not have any mental capacity. It's a bunch of things, what they call disposable people. And they kill a person here and there and say they, making society. The death penalty has been in action for 500 years since St. Thomas Aquinas back in the Middle Ages. It has been tested and tried and failed in many, many ways. And they can shore it up all they want, and they can put white gloves on and say that it's this is the best way to do it, but they're botching executions in Oklahoma and Texas and everywhere else.
Yeah.
They picked one person to kill because, we would have been far better off. I think it's far better off to let the person responsible for killing Dawn stay alive, because they have to be accountable for what they've done, just like all of us. We have to live with what they've done. They have to be accountable by living too. That's my thought about it.
That's right.
Death penalty's got to go.
Yeah. And then they got to watch their backs, because you're not safe in prison. And you sleep with one eye open. So,
And, and from what I learned from talking to you all, it doesn't make any sense on many other levels. It's not a deterrent. They have the death penalty in most states in the South. They don't have it in the North. The murder rate in the South is higher. If the death penalty was keeping away from people killing each other, there would be a lower murder rate in states that have the death penalty, but quite the opposite is true. Most of the states that have the death penalty have a higher murder rate than states that don't have the death penalty.
Absolutely.
Another reason to be against the death penalty is financial. A death penalty case costs 3 times as much as a life in prison without parole case. Kirk, you know more about that probably, but the jury has to be certified. There's more rounds of appeals. It is a much more involved case. So some counties, even in states like Ohio, some counties don't ever sentence anyone to die because they can't afford it, So you can be in one county in Ohio, kill somebody, and they try to put you to death, and you're like 5 miles down the road, and they will not try you for the death penalty. So it
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the disparities that are involved in the death penalty are so great that, we've had so many different committees and, all these different study commissions and different things about how the death penalty is fraught with error. That's just a few of the things. There was the one that I did in Maryland at the time. By the way, we don't have the death penalty in Maryland anymore.
That's right.
And so, we don't have the death penalty. And everywhere we have been and fought against the death penalty, Witness to Innocence has been there. And so, we're working on some of these southern places, but everybody's just got to stop. This is legal lynching, and they need to quit. And before, we're going to kill more innocent people. And I know just as sure as I sit here that we're doing it all the time, and they got to stop saying that it's for justice. It ain't for nothing. It's for vengeance. And vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. So they can forget that.
Just like the Purvis case that's coming up December 3rd. He's fighting for his life. He's only asking for tested DNA. If somebody feels like they're innocent, what is so hard with you testing the freaking DNA? That don't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
The truth. That's one reason. It shows the truth.
Crazy.
They just don't want to see. We had a Supreme Court justice one time, Anthony Scalia, said the death penalty should be given if improperly rendered sentence of death, even though the person's innocent. Now that should scare every daggone body on the planet.
That should.
Because they can do it, and they do it every day.
That's right. But then they tell the guilty person that you shouldn't have done that crime. But yet and still they turn around and do what they're telling you not to do. That don't make sense. That don't make sense.
And then some people think being in prison is not so bad. They feel like we need to kill the people because prison, they have TVs and they have a good old time. You hear these, coming from Germany, I'm always in shock by people talking as if prisons in America, prisoners are having a good life, when you describe, or Sabrina, when you describe to me what death row felt like, it's like dark clouds coming in. It's torture.
It is torture. If you call seeing a person get raped, if you call a person's insides falling out on the ground and they're picking her up on a mattress and carrying her out because they wouldn't give her proper medical treatment, if you call rats being in your cell, if you call food that God knows what it is, if you call being cold when you're supposed to be warm, if you call being hot when you're supposed to be cool, if you call sitting in a one-man cell no bigger than your bathroom thinking about to go crazy, if you call that a good time, then I don't know what planet you're living on. Yeah. But it's certainly not America.
They could have HBO and cable in that damn place, and it's still
right.
The evilest place on the planet for a person.
That's right.
You're subject, I was treated so unfairly for so many years. And you could see the mice, and they had rats the size of cats.
That's right.
I'm not kidding.
Right.
It's we cannot incarcerate our way out of this problem. We certainly can't execute our way out of this problem. We need to change what we're doing and start thinking a different way about it. And I know progressive is a bad word these days, but they can all go jump a lake because it's the way it's supposed to be. You can't treat people. When I was a Marine, they said you're only as good as your slowest, most man, period. You can't go no better than the worst person in your society. We shouldn't be treating these people this way. And, there's not saying that people don't deserve to go to jail and get locked up for what they do. Some of these things are horrific. Anybody knows about it. But we need to change the way we're dealing out this kind of punishment. And the death penalty has to go. I think about it all the time. It's it needs to end.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's even worse being in prison all your life? If you have life without parole, it might be a worse sentence than being executed. Might maybe a way out.
Well, people have a tendency to think that when you go to prison, you get all these perks. You go to college, you do all this stuff. That's a bunch of crap.
Yes,
it don't work that way. You have to survive. If somebody gives you 10 years, to go to prison, you ain't supposed to go to prison and get more punishment. You're taking 10 years of your life. That is a big thing. They add all these draconian sentences across the country since the 1980s. It makes me so ill. Give a man 1,000 years. You can't do 25 most of the time. And 40, and some of these people, exonerated people, 40 some years, Kwame, 27 years. I mean, it's unbelievable. And we need to change the way we think. I would far better have somebody that robbed me, right, learn how to get a job and educate them. Give them a little piece of mind, help them out, get them up the road, and give them a helping hand up, not a hand out. But it's different. People think you go to prison, they should punish the shit out of you even more. I don't see it. I think we need to, try to find out how we can do this in a better way. And then we'll have a lot less people in prison.
That's right. And then that's right. What if the ones you do send to prison, and then you say to them, okay, you just serve your time, but you didn't rehabilitate them now. And then you throw them back out there on the street. What do you think you're doing? You're creating monsters in there. That's exactly what you're doing if you're not rehabilitating people that are going to prison. You're not rehabilitating. And if you say you are, you're lying. Because like I said, what Kirk said, if they put water beds in there, I don't want to see it. I'm not going back in there. I don't care what they do. That's a place that it breaks you down mentally, physically, and emotionally. It just tears you apart. And for a person to have a life sentence, it is worse. To me, it's worse.
Yeah, we have to stop thinking about that idea that there's more to punish you as. The whole idea behind incarceration is to give you 10 years to make yourself get back. Prison was never meant to be forever.
No.
And certainly killing people and just give them all this time didn't help them. We got 2.3 million prisoners in the United States.
That's crazy.
That's like major cities.
Hmm.
And that happened after the draconian laws of the 80s that came along in the 90s.
Yeah.
With the different administrations that were trying to be tough on crimes and predators and all that kind of mess.
Yeah.
And then you got too much, it's too much. And there was only like 400,000 people in prison before that started. And now we got almost 3 million people.
And that's crazy.
Private
And throwing the babies in there too. You're throwing babies in there with older people. That's crazy.
We need to change it.
We do.
I know Sabrina and I are very excited. I know I get so worked up over this stuff.
I do.
Well, then the organization has the right executive director. So.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, they do.
I think so.
I'm trying.
I do want to point out again for people who may have joined us later in the conversation that Witness to Innocence is the only national organization in the United States composed of and led by exonerated death row survivors and their family members.
That's right.
You can learn more about the organization by visiting the site at witnesstoinnocence.org, and you can donate at witnesstoinnocence.org/donate. Martin, before we conclude this conversation, I know you've encouraged everybody that can to visit Fotografiska in New York City. We have been open. We are adhering to all of the safety measures around the pandemic and COVID, temperature checks and time ticket entrances throughout the day. We're at a 25% capacity. I'm actually in the museum right now. It's really lovely. Do you have ideas of, after we present this exhibition, what's next for the project?
Well, normally I do a project and then I finish it and then I find another project. I like projects that are often, that are really focused. I photographed homeless people on one street corner in Los Angeles. I photographed 75 Holocaust survivors. And what I like about this is that, there's 172 people that were exonerated, that were sentenced to death at some point. And but the problem with this project is that I like these guys so much that I feel like it makes it hard to move on. And, I met, photographed and interviewed 16. So there's a lot more to go. So we'll see.
Well, the exhibition is going to be in the museum till January 10th. I should call that out. So there is plenty of time. We might be hopefully we'll be in a different space and place. Things will get good, and we can open more things up. Sabrina, Kirk, Martin, on behalf of the museum, Fotografiska Worldwide, I just want to thank you. You didn't have to talk with us tonight. You didn't have to share your stories. We're so grateful to have you, to know you, to call you our new friends, and we can't wait to meet you in New York.
Awesome.
So thank you. And I want to thank Jenny and Allison in the Witness to Innocence office, who have been just really wonderful to work with in planning for this event. And Jan in Martin's office, who also has been just so helpful in the process of reopening the museum when we were closed, and we knew that we wanted to pivot and show this very, very important work, which feels, very in and of the moment right now, and a really important topic. So I think we'll conclude here. I do hope the conversation continues, possibly online and elsewhere. And again, I just thank you so, so much. And I wish you all the best
Thank you.
in life and happiness.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. God bless you there, Mark.
God bless you guys.
You guys.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Peace.